Welcome to this week's episode of Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up for the week ending January 17th, 2025. This week, we tackle a range of critical developments shaping the global intelligence landscape. First, we explore the Liberal Party of Canada's leadership race and the measures being taken to guard it against foreign interference. Next, we turn our attention to TikTok as the platform faces a potential nationwide ban in the United States, raising questions about national security and digital privacy. We also dive into a concerning act of sabotage in the Baltic Sea, threatening Europe's energy and communication infrastructure, and examine Taiwan's growing challenges with suspected Chinese espionage. Finally, we analyze a breach in the UK Parliament's security by Russian diplomats, a story that highlights the ever-present threat of hybrid warfare. With over 25 years of experience in intelligence and law enforcement, Neil Bisson provides professional insights that rival top-tier government briefings, keeping you informed on the pressing threats impacting global security. Let's dive in.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Neil Bisson, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. Each week, I bring you professional insights on the latest headlines related to national security, foreign interference, espionage, and all things intelligence related. Russia and China continue to engage in provocations against the West and their allies this week, including attempts at embarrassing the UK Parliament and continued intelligence operations against Taiwan. Further concerns around foreign interference in Canadian elections have made their way into the headlines, and another Iranian senior official remains in Canada despite efforts to deport him. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. In our first story, we're focusing on the steps being taken to protect the Liberal Party of Canada's leadership race from foreign interference. A recent Global News article highlights the role of Security Intelligence Threats to Election Task Force, or SITE, in monitoring the race as candidates begin their campaign to replace Justin Trudeau as the leader and possibly the next Prime Minister of Canada. As Canadians prepare for the new chapter in leadership, SITE has been tasked with ensuring electoral integrity. This body, created in 2019, brings together national security players like CSIS, the RCMP, and the Communication Security Establishment. While SITE has proven its value during past by-elections, leadership races bring unique vulnerabilities. As Dennis Molinaro, a former federal security analyst, noted, the self-governed nature of party rules has historically left gaps for foreign interference to exploit. For example, previous regulations have allowed non-citizens to vote, creating an avenue for manipulation by foreign actors. New rules now limit voting to Canadian citizens or permanent residents and set clear eligibility requirements. However, Molinaro warns these updates may not go far enough without robust verification measures. Foreign interference in the democratic process isn't new. From Russian influence operations in the U.S. elections to recent allegations of Chinese interference in Canada, the playbook often involves exploiting loopholes in election laws. In this case, the Liberal Party has already faced issues with fraudulent voter registrations. This highlights a recurring challenge in leadership races, maintaining public trust while addressing vulnerabilities that foreign actors might exploit. SITE's involvement in the proactive step, offering not only monitoring but also briefings on cybersecurity and membership screening. Such measures aim to bolster resilience against interference attempts, setting a precedent for all political parties in Canada. Molinaro's perspective underscores the persistent vulnerabilities in leadership races. While welcoming the new rules, he emphasized the need for stringent verification processes to ensure citizenship and prevent fraudulent voting. Deputy Clerk Natalie Droon added that SITE's continuous reporting and swift action will be critical in identifying and mitigating any threats. Her assurance that these measures will be extended to future leadership races for all recognized political parties shows a commitment to long-term electoral integrity. These developments are promising, but the challenges lie in the execution. Without a clear system to verify membership authenticity, foreign actors will still find ways to influence outcomes. To recap, Canada is taking significant steps to protect the democratic process as the Liberal Party leadership race gets underway. While SITE's involvement and the updated voting rules are commendable, gaps remain. Robust verifications and swift action against fraudulent activities will be crucial in safeguarding this leadership race in the next federal election. Looking ahead, the lessons learned here could shape how democracies worldwide respond to electoral threats. I will continue to monitor this story as it unfolds, and as the stakes couldn't be higher, with the next leader of the Liberal Party poised to potentially lead Canada or the opposition party into the future. For our next story, move to the United States, where we're diving into the heated topic in world national security and technology, the potential ban on TikTok. The article entitled U.S. TikTok Banned, When Could the App Be Banned and Will Trump Save It? TikTok's ongoing battle against a looming ban set to take effect on January 19th unless its Chinese parent company ByteDance sells its U.S. operations. With the Supreme Court now involved and President-elect Donald Trump signaling possible intervention, the stakes couldn't be higher. The article highlights 3 major points. The first, the ban deadline. TikTok must sell its operations by January 19th or face a nationwide ban due to national security concerns. 2, legal challenges. TikTok and ByteDance argue the ban is unconstitutional and would significantly impact free speech. 3, Trump's potential role. Trump has asked the Supreme Court to delay the ban so he can pursue a political resolution once he takes office. From an intelligence perspective, the issue is emblematic of broader security concerns about Chinese tech firms. Lawmakers fear TikTok's connection to the Chinese government could lead to the misuse of sensitive user data for espionage or influence campaigns. Given TikTok's 170 million US users, these concerns carry immense national security implications. This isn't the first time TikTok has faced this kind of scrutiny. In 2020, the Trump administration attempted to ban the app, citing similar security concerns. The move reflects a growing trend of governments worldwide restricting Chinese tech platforms. For example, India banned TikTok in 2020, and the app has faced restrictions in countries like the UK, EU, and Afghanistan. This pattern points to an escalating geopolitical divide where technology is increasingly being weaponized. TikTok's highly advanced data collection practices, while not unique among social media platforms, are particularly concerning when combined with its ties to China. The article quotes the U.S. Justice Department, which describes TikTok as a national security threat of immense depth and scale. Legal experts have also warned that the ban's potential to disrupt free speech for millions of users. From my perspective, TikTok's case highlights a complex interplay between technology, national security, and international politics. Banning the app will help mitigate national security risks of the Chinese Communist Party's ability to conduct surveillance and influence operations against U.S. citizens. However, the ban does raise questions about the role of the government in regulating digital platforms and the long-term consequences of such actions on global tech innovation. TikTok faces a critical juncture, with its future in the U.S. hanging in the balance. Whether the Supreme Court rules in favor of TikTok or the ban proceeds, the outcome will set a significant precedent on how governments addressing security concerns related to foreign technology companies happen. Looking ahead, we can expect similar scrutiny of other Chinese platforms, signaling a broader trend of decoupling in the tech sphere. For now, all eyes are on the Supreme Court and Donald Trump as we await the next development. For our next story, we stick with the issue of national security concerns facing Western allies and examine a new proposal from the Biden administration to restrict the export of advanced computer chips critical to developing artificial intelligence. Based on the article Where Canada Fits in the New U.S. Proposal to Restrict AI Chip Exports, the framework aims to safeguard national security while addressing concerns from chip manufacturers and allied nations. Canada, as one of the closest U.S. allies, finds itself in a unique position under this framework. The proposed framework has 3 key objectives. 1. National security protection. The U.S. aims to prevent advanced AI chips from falling into the hands of adversaries, particularly China. 2. Support for allies. Close partners, including Canada, would have unrestricted access to these chips. 3. Economic considerations. The framework seeks to maintain U.S. leadership in AI technology while addressing concerns about global supply chain fragmentation. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo emphasized that AI's rapid evolution poses national security risks, making it critical to safeguard advanced AI technology. However, the proposal has sparked pushback from industry leaders who argue it could hurt innovation, disrupt supply chains, and restrict access to chips already used for consumer products like video games. For Canada, the framework highlights its alignment with U.S. goals, reinforcing its position as a trusted partner in AI development. This proposal reflects a growing trend of tech-related exports aimed at countering China's advancements in AI and other critical technologies. The U.S. sees a 6 to 8 month advantage in AI development, which it seeks to preserve by restricting access to advanced AI chips. Canada's inclusion among the 20 countries exempt from restrictions underscores the deep technological and security ties between the two nations. Historically, Canada and the US have collaborated on tech innovations and defense, making this partnership vital for both economies. The proposal has drawn mixed reactions. On one side, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan supports the framework as a necessary measure to prevent offshoring critical technology. On the other side, industry leaders, including NVIDIA's Ned Finkel, argue the rules could hinder global innovation without achieving the intended security benefits. From an intelligence perspective, while the framework's intent to protect national security is valid, its execution may create unintended consequences. Limiting global access to chips risks alienating some allies and stalling innovation, particularly in fields like medical research and renewable energy. Striking the balance between security and economic interests is critical. The Biden administration's framework represents a bold move to secure AI leadership while addressing security threats from foreign adversaries. For Canada, this is a reaffirmation of its trusted partnership with the US. However, the tensions between innovation and security highlights the complexities of regulating cutting-edge technologies. As the framework undergoes a 120-day comment period, its final implementation will be crucial in shaping the future of global AI development. Canada will need to demonstrate that they have effectively prevented future espionage operations from China in the technology field to ensure that cooperation with the US and other Western nations continues. As we have seen previously, with the 2 Chinese agents who stole information from the Microbiology Institute in Winnipeg, our security screening programs require a robust overhaul and implementation of more resources to bolster the security stance against this type of espionage. In the next story, we're exploring a concerning event that has caused the attention of NATO and international community: sabotage in the Baltic Sea. According to the article by ABC News, unknown actors targeted a gas pipeline and an undersea telecable connecting Finland and Estonia. This act of undersea sabotage raises alarms about escalating tensions in the region and the growing threat of hybrid warfare tactics. The Baltic Sea Sabotage highlights critical vulnerabilities in Europe's energy and communication infrastructure. The deliberate damage to the gas pipeline and telecom cables points to the involvement of state-level actors, although no official attribution has been made at this time. Finland and Estonia, both NATO members, have expressed serious concerns about the security implications, prompting NATO to closely monitor the situation. From an intelligence perspective, this incident exemplifies the challenge posed by hybrid warfare. Sabotaging critical infrastructure is a calculated move designed to create disruption without triggering an outright military conflict. Such tactics target soft vulnerabilities and often serve to intimidate and destabilize adversaries. For NATO, this act raises pressing questions about its collective defense strategy, particularly Article 5, which commits members to respond collectively to an armed attack. It also underscores the urgent need for better protection of undersea infrastructure, which plays a vital role in Europe's energy supply and communication networks. This is not the first time the Baltic Sea region has been the stage for suspected sabotage. The 2022 attacks of the Nord Stream pipeline remain fresh in memory. Many experts suspected foul play in those incidences as well. The Baltic region has been a flashpoint for a long time due to its strategic importance in the proximity to Russia, making it a hotspot for geopolitical tension. This also reflects a broader trend in modern conflict: the rise of gray zone tactics. These are actions that fall below the threshold of conventional warfare but have the potential to destabilize nations and alliances. Undersea cables and pipelines, often viewed as less protected and harder to monitor, are increasingly becoming targets in this evolving threat landscape. This latest sabotage is yet another reminder of how hybrid threats are reshaping national security priorities. The article cites several key perspectives on the incident. The Finnish president described the sabotage as worrying and emphasized that the importance of this international cooperation to address such threats is increasing. NATO Security General Hans Stoltenberg reaffirmed NATO's commitment to protecting critical infrastructure, signaling that the issue is a top priority for the alliance. From a professional intelligence standpoint, acts like these often serve two purposes: sending a warning and testing the resolve of adversaries. It is provocation with an expectation of potential actions on the part of NATO. Russia is hoping to evoke a response that they can claim is unjustified, and the hopes of responding with a larger level of retaliation. It's a bully's equivalent to egging on a potential victim and the hope of baiting them to act. NATO's ability to respond to this incident cohesively will be crucial in maintaining its credibility. Strengthened collaboration among NATO allies, coupled with enhanced intelligence sharing and security measures, will be vital in safeguarding undersea infrastructure. The sabotage in the Baltic Sea is a wake-up call for NATO and its member states, highlighting both the vulnerabilities and critical infrastructure that the evolving nature of hybrid warfare brings. Protecting undersea pipelines and communication cables will require enhanced surveillance, coordination, and investment in new technologies. This incident also underscores the importance of holding state or non-state actors accountable for such actions, as failing to do so could embolden future acts. Looking ahead, we can expect NATO to ramp up monitoring in the region and explore innovative defense measures to mitigate these risks. Attribution efforts will also be critical in identifying and addressing the perpetrators behind this act. Keeping with the topic of Russian government activities, our next story looks at Russia's ongoing crackdown on dissent, a development that's captured global attention. A recent article from BBC News highlights a sweeping campaign by the Russian government to suppress opposition and silence critics. From arrests to new legislation aimed at limiting free speech, this crackdown has significant implications for Russia's domestic stability and posture on the global stage. The article reveals how Russian authorities are taking aggressive steps to stamp out dissent. Protesters, activists, and independent media outlets are bearing the brunt of the government's efforts. Notably, this wave of suppression has intensified following the Ukraine conflict, which has polarized Russian society and drawn international condemnation. From an intelligence perspective, this crackdown suggests a government deeply concerned about internal security and its grip on power. Historically, such actions often signal vulnerability within authoritarian regimes. Leaders might use these measures to project strength, but they could inadvertently fuel further unrest and drive dissent underground, making it harder to monitor and potentially more dangerous. This isn't the first time the Russian government has tightened its control. Under President Putin, the Kremlin has consistently cracked down on dissent, but the current measures seem more extensive and systematic. We've seen similar patterns elsewhere too. Think back to Iran's response to the protests in 2022, or China's handling of pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. These regimes often justify their actions as necessary for national security, but the broader goal is typically to maintain control and silence alternative voices. The BBC article quotes several human rights organizations warning that these actions could backfire, galvanizing the very opposition the government seeks to suppress. Analysts suggest that this level of suppression reflects a growing paranoia within the Kremlin, particularly as international pressure mounts over its actions in Ukraine. From a global security and intelligence perspective, such crackdowns often have unintended consequences. By silencing peaceful dissent, governments risk radicalizing individuals or groups who feel they have no other outlet. This is something intelligence agencies worldwide monitor closely, as these dynamics can lead to unforeseen security challenges. Russia's nationwide crackdown on dissent demonstrates how authoritarian regimes prioritize control over freedom. These actions not only raise questions about Russia's internal stability, but also the broader implications for global security and the resilience of democratic values worldwide. Looking ahead, we can expect continued unrest with Russia, along with intensified international scrutiny. For intelligence professionals, this underscores the importance of monitoring these developments and anticipating their ripple effects, which could include Russian citizens willing to provide needed information against the Russian authoritative regime. For our next story, we're returning to Canada, where we're delving into a recent decision by Canada's Immigration and Refugee Board, which refused to deport an alleged senior Iranian official residing here. This development raises significant questions about Canada's stance on foreign officials linked to regimes accused of human rights violations. According to a recent Global News article, the Canada Border Service Agency, or CBSA, identified an Iranian national as a high-ranking official within the Islamic Republic's government. Despite this, the Immigration and Refugee Board, or the IRB, declined to issue a deportation order after a closed-door hearing. The decision marks the first instance where the federal government's initiative to ban senior Iranian officials from Canada has been challenged unsuccessfully. CBSA has since appealed the ruling to the IRB's Immigration Appeal Division. From an intelligence perspective, this situation underscores the complexities involved in enforcing policies against foreign officials linked to oppressive regimes. It highlights the challenges in gathering admissible evidence, navigating legal frameworks, and balancing diplomatic relations. The broader implications for national security are profound, as decisions like this can influence Canada's international reputation and its commitment to human rights. In November of 2022, in response to Iran's brutal suppression of women's rights demonstrations following the death of Mahsa Amini, Canada designated the Iranian regime as a government engaged in terrorism and systematic human rights violations. This policy aimed to bar senior Iranian officials from entering Canada and to deport those already present. To date, 18 suspected regime members have been identified in Canada, However, only 3 deportation hearings have been completed, with the most recent one being unsuccessful. Notably, only 1 individual has been deported under this policy, raising questions about its effectiveness and implementation. The article references statements from Canadian public safety and immigration ministers emphasizing that perpetrators of gross human rights abuses are not welcome in Canada. However, the recent IRB decision challenges the enforcement of this stance. Drawing from my experience in intelligence collections and analysis, this case illustrates the inherent difficulties of enacting enforcement to better enhance the security of the country. The IRB's refusal to deport the alleged senior Iranian official highlights the challenges that Canada faces in enforcing the policies against foreign officials linked to oppressive regimes. This case may unfortunately set a precedent for further decisions and could potentially impact Canada's international standing on human rights issues. It makes absolutely no sense to publicly voice concerns about regimes like Iran, but allow those senior officials to remain in Canada. Moving forward, it will be crucial to monitor how the appeal process unfolds and whether adjustments to policy enforcement mechanisms are considered to address the identified challenges. For our next story, we're heading east and examining a report from CNN titled "Taiwan Faces a Surge in Suspected Chinese Espionage." This article highlights a concerning rise in suspected espionage activities by China targeting Taiwan. The piece explores the methods used and the implications of this growing trend. The article reports an uptick in cases where Taiwanese officials, retired military officers, and business figures have been accused of spying for Beijing. Investigators reveal that Chinese operatives use financial incentives, promises of political support, and covert recruitment strategies to extract sensitive information. From an intelligence perspective, this surge underscores the high-stakes environment of cross-strait relations. Taiwan's strategic importance, not just regionally but globally, make it a prime target for China's intelligence-gathering efforts. Espionage of this scale can erode national security, undermine public trust, and compromise the sovereignty of a targeted nation. For broader national security implications, this trend reflects China's ongoing strategy of leveraging human intelligence, or HUMINT, to prepare for potential scenarios in the Taiwan Strait, including military conflict or diplomatic coercion. The use of HUMINT also complements Beijing's robust cyber espionage capabilities, creating a comprehensive intelligence strategy. This isn't the first time we've seen allegations of Chinese espionage in Taiwan. Over the past decades, cases of Taiwanese military officers and government officials being lured into sharing classified information have repeatedly made headlines. Comparatively, other nations like the US, Canada, and Australia have reported similar concerns regarding Chinese espionage. These cases highlight a global trend of Beijing's intensified focus on foreign intelligence operations to advance its own strategic objectives. CNN's article features insights from analysts who warn that these espionage efforts could provide Beijing with critical intelligence to weaken Taiwan's defenses and destabilize its democracy. From an intelligence perspective, these activities align with China's long-term strategy of using non-military means to achieve political and military dominance over Taiwan. Recruitment tactics targeting individuals with access to valuable information are a classic approach in HUMINT, demonstrating Beijing's calculated and methodical efforts to achieve its goals. To summarize, the surge in suspected Chinese espionage against Taiwan is a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance in safeguarding national security. This issue extends beyond Taiwan, reflecting a broader challenge posed by China's aggressive intelligence operations worldwide. As these activities continue, nations must strengthen their counterintelligence measures to protect against foreign interference and espionage. Looking ahead, we can expect an increase in both HUMINT and cyber operations targeting Taiwan as geopolitical tensions in the regions escalate. Further to this, the exclusion of AI chips to China and the cooperation between the US and Taiwan escalates the requirement of Beijing to continue to focus espionage operations against them. For our last story this week, we're diving into a significant breach of UK parliamentary security. According to a recent article by The Guardian entitled "Russian Diplomats Access Private Area of UK Parliament in Security Breach," Russian diplomats reportedly gained unauthorized access to a restricted area in the UK Parliament. This incident raises important questions about security protocols and the risk of foreign interference at the heart of British democracy. The breach involved individuals associated with Russian diplomatic mission who reportedly bypassed security to access private areas within Parliament. While the exact nature of their activities remain undisclosed, the incident highlights a recurring challenge in counterintelligence, identifying and mitigating covert actions by foreign states in politically sensitive locations. From an intelligence perspective, this type of breach could serve multiple purposes. It might involve reconnaissance, recruitment, surveillance, or even planning devices for future intelligence gathering operations. The fact that this occurred in such a high-profile location suggests either a deliberate act of provocation or a failure of security protocols to adapt to modern threats. This is not the first time Russian operatives have targeted symbolic institutions in Western democracies. Similar incidences, such as attempts to infiltrate NATO meetings or manipulate political figures, underscore Moscow's long history of aggressive intelligence gathering operations. Such breaches are part of a broader strategy of hybrid warfare, where traditional espionage merges with cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and physical penetration of critical institutions. In this context, the UK, like many nations, must continuously refine its counterintelligence measures. The evolving sophistication of these operations demand heightened vigilance and advanced training for security personnel. The article references several experts who have voiced concerns about the UK's readiness to prevent such breaches. Their insights emphasize the importance of robust security measures, particularly when dealing with nations known for high-level intelligence operations like Russia. Incidences like this one often highlight vulnerabilities in how institutions perceive threats. Training and awareness need to keep pace with the tactics employed by foreign intelligence services. As a retired intelligence officer, I can attest that preventing such breaches often come down to anticipating the unexpected and preparing personnel for every contingency. This is a cautionary tale that should be used to train Canadian parliamentary security staff. Parliament has and continues to have unprecedented reconstruction. This is an opportune time for foreign states and non-state actors to attempt to test, infiltrate, and bug areas of Parliament. This breach is a wake-up call for governments worldwide. It underscores the importance of maintaining strict security protocol in politically sensitive areas and demonstrates the ongoing threat posed by foreign interference. Looking ahead, we can expect more aggressive actions from adversarial states, particularly in regions where political tensions and national security are at stake. Remember, staying informed about these developments is key to understanding the bigger picture of global intelligence operations. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, links to the stories are available in the show notes. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into providing you up-to-date analysis on global security issues that affect your life and livelihood, please consider being a sponsor to the program. You can go to www.buzzsprout.com/233-6717/support. There's no commitment and you can cancel at any time. As an incentive for your support, I will randomly choose a supporter each week and send them a Global Intelligence Knowledge Network swag. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you have a comment, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. As always, until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. From the Liberal Party's leadership race and TikTok's looming U.S. ban, to sabotage in the Baltic Sea, Taiwan struggles with Chinese espionage, and Russian diplomats breaching UK Parliament security, today's stories highlight the evolving and interconnected nature of global security threats in 2025. If you found today's analysis valuable, please like, share, or comment to help us reach even more listeners. Your support allows us to continue delivering expert insights and intelligence, rivaling high-level government briefings. For in-depth commentary and intelligence resources, become a member of GIKN. Visit the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, where Neil Bisson provides professional analysis on the issues shaping our world. And as Neil always reminds us, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. See you next week for more expert analysis on the latest developments in global intelligence.